we do a serious one.
Yeah.
So joining you live from the World Championship 2023 in Barcelona, the Living Legend podcast.
But yeah, we can roll straight into this. Welcome back to Living Legends podcast. My name's Az from Go Again Gaming, and joined with Kel today. How's it going, Kel?
Hello. Pretty good. It's been very busy lately. Just got off of a weekend of casting. Well, the first major open invite tournament for Shadow Evolve English in LA. I did remote casting with my co-host Ignitius, and it was really good. The event was had a lot bigger turnout than we expected. The event went really well, went super smoothly, and yeah. So I just kind of took a day off after that to do a little bit of recharge before I leave for Singapore this week to do more casting for a different card game for Grand Archive. So I've been pretty busy, but it's like I guess like a good kind of busy.
Yeah.
How about you, man?
Yeah.
How have you been?
I'm doing pretty well. Being pretty busy as well. But typical Living Legends fashion, we like all things gaming here, and it just seems to be that this week is quite a quiet week with Flesh and Blood. Not only my own personal Flesh and Blood engagement this week, but just in general, there's not much going on. You know, Rosetta is still being figured out, and as a result of that, started playing other games, which miniatures games, Age of Sigmar. Lots of things going on which aren't Flesh and Blood related. So thank God for this podcast, so we can speak a little bit about it at least, and kind of go back in history a little bit, because today's topic is going to be quite out there, not really relevant to what's going on or what the lack of what's going on at the moment. It's just going to be going through basically all the sets that Flesh and Blood has released and picking out a few cards here and there, pieces of art here and there that we might want to explore further or get answers on as to what's going on in the art or what's going on in the card, archetypes, support, and all this.
Yeah. I believe I proposed the title of The Unsolved Mysteries of Flesh and Blood.
That's right.
For any of those of you out there who watch those type of YouTube channels or whatever. There's one that I actually really enjoy called Decoding the Unknown, where he talks about like mysteries and that kind of stuff. But he's like super scientific and cynical about it. So it's actually really entertaining because it's really hard to convince him otherwise. He's not the kind of person to just like believe everything. So if you're like
just loves to debate.
They're talking about there's not talking about like some famous haunting, and he's not like, oh yeah, the ghosts are real. The first thing they're like, and were the ghosts real? And he's like, no, they weren't. like no.
That's cool.
So I don't know. It's a good thing. So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about today: the unsolved mysteries of Flesh and Blood.
That's right.
Who is Fendel? Maybe we'll find out.
Maybe we'll find out. No, today. Not on today. We don't have the answers. We're just posing the questions basically. But unfortunately, Bill's not here today. So wish him all the best in the comments below. And I'm sure we'll be back to do it all over again next week. For those people that don't know, Bill is very much involved in the Magic the Gathering scene, which at the moment is up in the air. Let's just say that.
That's a good way to put it. I was gonna say like on fire.
Yeah.
But like I feel like Magic is like it's like on fire so much these days that it's just like in this perpetual state of burning. Yeah. That at some point it's like a Dark Souls boss, right? It's on fire all the time.
That's right. It's like the Balrog of Morgoth, like all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Refuses to burn out. Will just burn forever. And it's actually kind of funny. Maybe it's not funny if you're really into this kind of stuff. But I've drawn this parallel between Magic and Warhammer fan bases recently, because I've really been getting into Warhammer more recently, both 40k and Age of Sigmar, though I think I like Age of Sigmar more. And like both communities are just like constantly in a state of like anger at the game and at the company and like at everything. And as me, someone who plays these other games that I genuinely really love and I like the companies, it's like kind of like, all right then, well then.
Yeah.
It's
no different, is it? I guess.
I find it very well, sad, to be honest. It's very sad, but
yeah.
But we are here to talk about games that we do enjoy, like the Flesh and the Blood
That's right. Yeah. So before we go into it, I just want to shout out a few of last week's comments, just because that one of them basically inspired this entire video today, while it was a slow sort of news week. So we're just going to go through a couple of those comments. And again, we are on our own platform now on YouTube. So the Living Legends podcast is on YouTube. So if you are an audio listener and you haven't already subscribed, I know a lot of you have, so thanks very much. And you can navigate over there and just click subscribe. We have hit the Fabled 500 already. And we are in the process of organising a stream where we do like a tag team format, which is still being worked out at the moment with Ian, the sort of crafter of strange formats. And you might have a bit of info with regards to something that you're doing with Ian in the future. I'm not sure whether you can reveal that, but Ian...
Oh yeah, I mean, I could talk a little bit about it, a little bit, but not. We don't have. So the problem is we don't have any like concrete dates, which is why we haven't like mentioned it or talked about it or spoken about it. But Ian approached me and some other folks with this idea that was to celebrate the 5 years of Flesh and Blood, which is coming up in October. That he wanted to do like an ultimate pit fight game with each player representing a hero that was released in one of those 5 years. Now, you don't have to play all cards from that year, but you do have to play a hero that was first released in that year.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be like a 5-way free-for-all ultimate pit fight with each person representing a hero from a specific year. So that is kind of in the works. I don't have any other details for that, other than we do plan on streaming it. Once again, don't have details on exactly where yet. I think we know, but once again, when everything's hammered out, we'll actually announce it. But it should be a lot of fun. And for those of you who don't know, Mr. Ian Kenderdine, he's been a guest a couple times here on the podcast, and he's one of the people who made the Ultimate Pit Fight format. Like, he literally helped make the format. So
be fun.
Yeah.
And that's what I was that's what I was alluding to as well, because Ian's going to be workshopping this tag team thing that we do for Living Legends podcast, because we promised at 500 we would do a stream of some sort. So he's going to be workshopping a tag team format, which we are going to try and do on a stream. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, we he gave me some some ideas. Like, he gave me some preliminary rules and stuff, and I kind of gave a little bit of feedback. One of my points that he agreed with, that we both thought was really cool, is that because it's tag team, it would be really cool if each team shared a play set between the two teams, right? So what I mean by that is, even though each person has their own deck and each hero, you can't have a play set. You can only have a play set between the two decks. So what I mean by that is, like, say for Command and Conquer, you can only have 3 Command and Conquers total between the two decks, or Enlightened Strike or whatever, right? So that makes it so that you can't double up. So you can't just. It makes it so you also can't you can't have the same deck, right? It makes it so you can't be like, I'm Ira and I'm Katsu and we have literally the same deck. You have to. Makes sense. It has to be different. And he agreed with that too. I think it's just more fun that way. Yeah. It's more flavorful too. It gives each tag partner like their own style, and you're all like, you tag in your partner if they have the CNCs because your opponent has like a arsenal or whatever. I think it's cool. It makes it more dynamic. Yeah, because one of the mechanics that was suggested on there was like tagging in your partner. So if you and your partner discuss what your hand might be or whatever. I don't know how we're going to do this live because we can't really sit back and discuss in a team what we're going to do. So it'll be funny. It'll be funny to see how it works. But as you say, open information, I guess. Absolutely, yeah. Like, you could just be like, well, okay, I've got the CNC in my hand here, so if you tag me in, I can threaten the arsenal that they've established or whatever. So, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So stay tuned for that. So thanks for everybody who's
helped us reach 500 subscribers in a fairly short period of time, and hopefully we can make me wear a pair of pants on my head for 1,000 as and when we get there. Because that'd be funny to see. But speaking of comments and people that have helped us get there and all that sort of stuff, today's episode was inspired by someone who frequently comments on the Living Legends podcast videos. So thanks to Tam Kablam, who frequently comments on here, and they say, "Dear Armada, must be excited with another card having pirates. The other one being his spoiler card Glyph Overlay. I'm going to predict that we might be getting a set in the future with pirates and necromancers." We touched on this last episode, I think, in top 5 cards, because you put one of them on there which had a pirate and a necromancer on, I believe.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember the name of the card, but it was the one with the necromancer getting like stabbed through the back by some pirate dude.
That's it. Yeah, generic attack, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Something facade, or I think. I can't remember what it was. Something.
Cut through the facade, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for the comment, and your comment inspired this week's episode, which again, because it's a slow news week, we just thought, Living Legends fashion, we'll think of something to talk about, and yeah, I've got a whole sort of docket to a certain degree as to going through a couple of things and cards that we might want to see more of, whether that's the art, the mechanics, the flavour, the theme, etc. So we're going to get into that very soon. Goblin Reserve is saying, "Let's go, another shout out." Yeah, we do shout out Hank quite often on this podcast. And he is saying, "I love all the cards that you were talking about. Dirge is huge for destroying things like an empty incantation." So that's a good idea, because actually, can you do that? Because I think Runeblood Incantation destroys itself at the start of turn. So I'm not sure whether you'd have the opportunity to do that unless you play it.
When do you remove the counter? So if you're,
I see.
Depends on if you. Yeah. So, like, it might just sit around for one turn before it destroys itself.
That's right.
That's what he means.
Yeah, so you remove the last verse counter. So it sits after, like, at the start of your turn. You remove the last verse counter, and then it sits there. So if you play then the Dirge, you can get rid of it and then destroy 3. That makes sense. Yeah, I was thinking about it in a different way. But yeah, that makes sense, because you remove the counter, and then you have the entire turn to then destroy the thing, basically. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also just creating chance and the word "go again" are pretty sweet. Yeah, so as Bill mentioned, I think it was Bill's card last week, the fact that card is a 0-cost "go again" rune chant creator is one of the main draws towards it. So, yeah. Whereas Read the Runes doesn't have that. You always used to crack your Mage Master boots and do all this sort of thing to get the go again on that. I remember playing old school Viserai trying to do that.
Oh yeah, you play Runeblood Barrier to get the 4 rune chance, and you had to protect your rune chance by blocking a lot.
That's right. Yeah. Classic. Just running it in the deck because it had rune chant generation on it, basically.
Yep.
Nobody cared about the spectral shield ability on there, basically.
No, that was a downside. Like,
yeah,
it like blew up your rune chance. You didn't want that. You want to keep them around.
Yeah. John is saying, "Yeah, it's Wednesday. Thanks for doing your thing, team." So yeah, it's another Wednesday, and I hope you're listening to this, John. Thanks for your positive words of affirmation there. Yeah, we continue to do this every week when we can. I'm not sure if we've really missed any weeks, because if one of us can't make it, normally the other 2 can, like we are today. So normally our track record is pretty good with Wednesdays.
I'm trying to remember. We might have missed like 1 week ever, and I think there was a couple times we had to push it back like a day or 2, but I think we've only ever missed like maybe 1 week.
Yeah.
And it might have been, I don't remember, was it the first Worlds with you and you and I went to, maybe?
It could have been, yeah. I'm not sure if we recorded before we went and then released anything. I think that might be one of the only times, perhaps.
Hey, we've been doing this for like a couple of years now, so it's been. Well, we think we're on our 3rd year, so it's been a while. I don't remember all 3 years.
Yeah,
super vividly at least.
I think it was around Uprising when we started, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Uprising and going back in time, we're going to be speaking about what was the title you came up with? Because
the unsolved mysteries of Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, that's right. So we're gonna go with that, and obviously it's an interesting time to speak about this because it's going to be 5 years anniversary soon. So it's nice to have a little history and go back and explore some stuff. But we're going to start it all over again with Welcome to Rathe. So one of the cards that I wanted to point out in here is not only an interesting piece of art depicting a godly figure wielding a lightning bolt, but it's also one of the most played and the most versatile cards that we continue to see to this day, and that's Enlightened Strike. If you've got any others from this set, you can by all means mention them as and when, and if you think about them. But I just thought I'd bring this one up first because of the fact that Flesh and Blood is depicting two heroes fighting each other. Just this sort of, it's been compared to fighting games, constantly, and it's just 1v1 combat. That started off with obviously Guardian, Ninja, Warrior, and Brute, and they were all fairly evenly matched, right? You could see a Guardian facing a Ninja or a Brute facing a Warrior. You could see these things, but as time's gone on, we've now got a giant robot fighting.
I was gonna say we have a card called Terminator Tank.
That's right.
It's literally called Terminator Tank.
But yeah. So it's funny to see that evolution, right? Because
you go from pummel Terminator Tank
to Terminator Tank. Yeah. There's other things in this list that appear later which are just like bonkers, but we're going to go for a wild journey today, that's for sure. But yeah, E-Strike is a fantastic card in general, but it depicts this sort of godly figure, probably, but by the look of it, definitely not human-sized. It's coming out of the clouds, wielding a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
And I want to know what that means for whether that's a character, whether that's a god, whether that's, I want to know and see more of that sort of thing, because that is showing just pure power on a card.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things to say about E-Strike just in general. So I think Enlightened Strike is my favorite card in the game. Mm-hmm. It's also the very first foil Majestic I opened. I opened up an alpha foil E-Strike in the very first booster box of Flesh and Blood that I ever opened. It was sent to me by Ian Kenderdine when he was like the content creator manager at Legend Store Studios back before Arcane Rising had even come out. So this was Welcome to Rathe was the only set. There was no first edition unlimited kind of stuff. It was just alpha Welcome to Rathe. That was it. And they sent me, I reached out to them and they sent me a content creator kit that consisted of all 4 of the hero decks, which were CC starter decks at the time, 2 play mats, and a booster box, right? So pretty little, nice little package to get in, right? Some starter decks, a booster box, and some playmats, right? And then I opened up the booster box because at the time I used to do a series about Force of Will because I was a Force of Will channel called Deck in a Box, which is kind of a play on the song. And it's like we try to build a deck from a booster box. That was the whole game, right? You open up a booster box and try to build the best deck you can possibly build. And since Flesh and Blood was made for limited play, I kind of pitched them this idea. I'm like, I'll do the deck in the box with Flesh and Blood for my first booster box opening. And so I did. I didn't open up a single cold foil, which is kind of funny. They were like, what cold foil did you open? And I'm like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. But I did open up a foil Enlightened Strike. And I saw the card, and you can go watch the video. It's still up on my YouTube channel, Red Zone Rogue. And I'm like, wow, this card looks awesome. I was like, this card looks so special that I think it has to be good. Like, I literally say that in the video. I'm like, I think this card looks so awesome that it has to be good. And then I think you could still find comments on the video that people are like, I'll buy that for you for $60. Like, someone wants to buy my Alpha E-Strike foil for $60. I did not sell it for $60. No. I actually sold it to a good friend of mine and Azz, Jim, from FABTCG Cards. He's the person I ended up selling that to. But I still have a full set of Alpha E-Strikes. So anyway, that card's really, E-Strike's really important to me. And the whole reason I bring this up in a very long-winded way is because the flavor and just the way the card looks, the aesthetics of it, sold me a lot on the game, right? I was checking the game out for the first time. There was a lot of just kind of like, dude punching dude cards. You have your barraging beatdowns, and you have Rhinar and Tatsu and Dorinthia and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And I saw this thing, and I'm like, okay, this really intrigues me. It gives you like that sense of wonder, and it makes it everything feel like kind of bigger than you, mysterious. I thought that was really cool. And since then, and I know a lot of lore buffs, it's debated what this figure is by a lot of lore buffs. So shout out to another good friend, Dead Summer Art.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks suspect and theorize that this might be one of the Aesir, one of the old gods.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you're going to bring this up in other sets, but figures like this appear in other sets, in other cards. Are you going to bring up any of the other cards? I don't know.
I hasn't. There's quite a wide mixture on here, so if you want to bring them up, if I don't mention them, then yeah, that'll be good. But unless you know what they are now, you can maybe allude to them now, perhaps. Okay,
I'll just mention them now. So there's a couple, and for a few sets in a row, they did like 1 or 2 cards sometimes that would depict these kind of beings. So like in the first set we had Enlightened Strike, and in the second set we had Art of War, right?
Yep.
And Art of War, you have like this big figure from the clouds, and is it a metaphor? Is it an actual dude in the clouds? I don't know. And then in Monarch we had the other one, the 0-cost 7-attack Cataclysm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there's that one with the Easter egg. Well, everyone called it the Easter egg dude, but it might be someone different.
Yeah.
And
Sea Strike.
So, yeah.
Sea Strike, they call it.
Sea Strike, exactly. Yeah. Get all the modes except for drawing a card, right? It's just a 0 for 7 go again. Pretty good.
Yep.
If you have the soul for it. So, yeah, this has kind of been like a recurring theme. We haven't seen it much recently, though. I feel like they kind of like petered out on that or lessened it up a little bit over time, but still, it's one of those things where everyone's like, "Who the hell are these? Who the hell are these things?"
That's right. Yeah. But they're characters now. We've got a giant living Aether robot thing, so we'll see.
Oh, like Acilio?
Like Acilio, yeah. I mean, I don't know the precise lore on what Acilio is, etc. But yeah.
All right, everyone. We're gonna need the fan art or the official Flesh and Blood set where Acilio, the Terminator tanks, and these giant Aesir all fight each other.
Wow.
Like Kaiju, Pacific Rim style.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like fighting in metrics, and then like the Aesir guys just like tackles the tank, and then they tumble, and then like the whole like metrics tower implodes and it explodes. Yeah.
It needs to be done,
doesn't
it?
Make it happen.
Yeah. It's like an old Power Rangers series. Like you see the big things like stomping in the trees and that, yeah.
When they throw in those old Power Rangers and the old like Toho monster movie where they throw the dude and then they clearly are on wire, so they just can't fly across the screen.
Just floating across, yeah. But yeah. Just thought it was a good place to start because, it's a iconic card, but also depicting these sort of godly, otherworldly figures is something that we do see going forward. So yeah, that's a cool place to start and very iconic. So anything else come to mind from Welcome to Rathe that you want to bring up?
Yeah. There's one. Well, there's two really big ones. One of them is not technically from Welcome to Rathe. Mm-hmm. But I do want to end up bringing it up because it was a huge point of not controversy, but like a speculation in like the community, especially like the lore buffs. The first one is Fendel, right? So the first set, Welcome to Rathe, introduced this concept of Fendel. Whether you have the Heart of Fendel, we have the Tome of Fendel, Fendel Spring's Tunic. We have these like really iconic, powerful cards. And we don't really know who or what Fendel is. We still don't know who or what Fendel is. And based on the naming, a lot of people would assume that Fendel is either an old one or an Aesir, or maybe the Aesir are the old ones. Once again, there's a lot of speculation on this because it hasn't actually been fleshed out yet. So Fendel, I think, is one of the big ones from Welcome to Rathe. We've gotten a couple other things about Fendel over the years, like the Fendel's fighting spirit, Sigil of Fendel, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But still nothing. We don't know who or what Fendel was. I know the prevailing theory, like I said, is that Fendel is either an Aesir or one of the old ones. And if that is true, then as other figures like Ophidia and whatever god is depicted on Plague Hive, whatever god is depicted on Grandeur of Valahai,
Light of Soul and stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Soul's another big one. We'll talk about that one maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
When we get to Monarch. So yeah, they're Fendel. Fendel's a really big mystery, and it's still an enduring mystery to this day. And then the other one is a really interesting one about Ira. Technically not in Welcome to Rathe, pre-Welcome to Rathe, but for a long time, and people still might believe this. We'll see if their theories changed based on the new adult Ira. Some people thought that Ira is dead, and that the young version of Ira is the real Ira, but that took place thousands of years in the past. And I watched a whole 30-minute video talking about this. It's just all speculation. We don't actually know. One of the big arguments was because Ira only has a young version, that she exists in the past. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. But now that we have an adult Ira confirmed with the 5-year anniversary, I don't know if it debunks the theories or if it just helps go with it. I don't know. Defer to the lore buffs. If we see Ira show up next to Lexi or something, then obviously we'll know for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's a good one.
That's the other one. The mystery of Ira. Is Ira one of the heroes in present day, or is she a hero of the past?
Yeah. Well, those questions may well be very answered soon, because obviously we are getting Ira in adult form, as you say, very, very soon after the 5th anniversary. Yeah. And to be honest, it's one of the decks that I might want to sort of foray my first time into Ninja, because I'm getting the English and Japanese copy when I go to Osaka next month. So I'm going to have the CC hero and maybe just try and build a Ninja deck with it for once, because it's a simple deck, right? A couple of
really fun,
cool things you can do with it, and I imagine in CC could be quite interesting. So
yeah, I played a bunch of Ira in Blitz, and she's super, super fun.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it. So I recommend it. Doesn't have all the weird fiddly bits that some of the other Ninja stuff has. You don't have to deal with a lot of the weird combo Zen crap. You can do a little bit of combo. I did 100 wins Ira kind of thing, but I don't know. It's a little more flexible, I guess you could say.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's Welcome's Rathe. That's the first set, and then following on from that was one of my favourites of all time, one of your favourites as well, and that's Arcane Rising.
Oh yeah.
One thing I want to bring up, again, feel free to add on to this or remind us of any other cards that we may have missed during this set. And this is a weird one as well, because it's got the same sort of vibes as E-Strike. Can you guess what card or pair of cards this is from Arcane Rising?
Yes, I can immediately guess. And Azz has not shown me, so if I am right...
Yeah.
By the way, the pair of cards kind of gave it away even more.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But is it Sunkiss and Moonwish?
It is, yeah. That's right.
I literally have prints, framed artist prints of Sunkiss and Moonwish in our bedroom, because it's some of the only TCG art that I could convince my partner to be cool with, because it's just really pretty. It's it doesn't have anything to do with a lot of stuff. It's just this really pretty. They pair really nicely together, framed. So
yeah, really nice contrasting colours. And again, just celestial figures that are in the sky. The cards are just not really viable whatsoever, albeit in that one Briar deck that I made.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Oh my god,
you were cooking then. That was pretty sick. I was very impressed. So.
That was hilarious.
I don't know if people can go find that. It was an old UPF video a long time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know, a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was a good one.
Yeah, I think that was before the podcast even started, because I remember me, you, Stephen, and Bill getting together on those UPF streams, and then I think most of the time Stephen like left the call like pretty soon after because he's a busy guy, and then it was just me, you, and Bill chatting for ages, and we was just like, should we just turn this into a podcast?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's basically how the podcast formed.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, so.
I made Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was just going to just get us onto Sunkiss and Moonwish again, but if you want to just, what was you going to say? Oh,
it was going to be about Sunkiss and Moonwish too. I remember making this is more mechanical. I made a commoner Kano deck that focused on Sunkiss and Moonwish because of the way the cards interact, and being able to put them on top of your deck and then playing them from the top of your deck with like Kano and or no, maybe not playing with Kano, but it still works with the wizard package. Yeah, it was like this weird deck that was like really fun, and sometimes it works. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether there's any cards that pair each other like this in the game. Like if you've done one of the cards, apart from the combo ninja stuff, maybe. I'm not sure if there's any other cards that say if you've done this card, then you get to do this extra thing. Apart from the combo ninja stuff, I'm not sure if there is any other ones that sort of have the same sort of vibe as this. I'm trying to think of anything outside of ninja at all. I can't think of anything. Yeah, let us know in the comments below. But it was just a pick again because of this celestial sort of art, and obviously the pairing between the Sunkiss and the Moonwish. It's just another interesting card that I think is. It's got good flavor text as well. Separated by a power greater than their own, they chased each other across the sky, wishing for nothing more than to reunite. So it's two celestial beings looking to reunite with each other. You know, it's just an interesting thing that could be expanded on. But obviously it's just one of these enigmatic things that we'll probably never find out. But we'll see. Anything else from Arcane Rising that is coming to mind for you? Off the back of this, or not?
Other than the ones that I talked about already. So there was like the Ardawar guy. There's Ophidia from Eye of Ophidia. Not much else that I can think of that would fit the bill exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff, but I think that's a good place for Arcane Rising for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know in the comments below if we've missed anything, but these are just the ones that we thought of for this week's episode. Going on to the next set, which is a line of sets that has now been discontinued, and this was the first sort of expansion set. I can't remember what they used to call it back in the day, but this is Crucible of War. What did they used to call it? Was it a supplementary set? Wasn't it?
Supplementary set, yeah.
Yeah, so Crucible of War, Everfest, Dynasty, all of these other sets that were sort of dispersed in between the draft ones were basically a bunch of cards that had support for all classes in it. So we don't actually see that anymore. We see the expansion slot where each set has a card for your favourite classes, right? That's what it seems to be right now. Crucible of War was stacked full of weird and interesting things that we'd never seen before. The one that I'm going to start with, albeit I can think of a load more just by looking at the card database here as well. The one I wanted to start with was some fantastic art by Federico Musetti. Can you guess what this one is? Federico Musetti art in Crucible of War. Yeah, it's a... Obviously, it's quite.
Is it a generic?
No, it's a class card, and it's a class that I do not play very often. Well, if at all.
I have some cards in mind, but I don't remember if they're from Crew or like Everfest.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, I do know what it is. Hold on, it's the Guardian. It's a Guardian card.
That's right.
I'm trying to remember the name of the card though. It's the Guardian card with the big knight dude, and he's got the big horns, and he's got the thing through the dude. Yeah, it's that card, right?
That is right.
I can't remember the name of the card.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're completely utterly correct. This card is called Mangle.
Nangle, yeah.
So yeah, fantastic art from Federico Musetti. So the art just depicts this absolutely chunky Guardian in full armor. You can't even see their face, just this horned helmet, huge like halberd axe thing, which has just gone through the skull of this person that he's just holding in one hand. So yeah, very imposing art. And the flavor text on this is, "There will be no peace for warmongers like you," and the quote is from a character called Jarl Vatrady. I think we've seen in other sets as well, and maybe in Crucible itself, there's other sort of characters that have the same sort of look as this. But I think this is the same character that's on Pulverize as well, which is the 14 attack Guardian card.
It looks similar.
Similar.
So how is the name spelled? Is it with a G or a J?
Jarl. Jarl.
So it could be Jarl, which is a title.
Yeah.
It could be Jarl Vatrady.
Oh, is it?
But I don't know if Jarls exist in Flesh and Blood.
What's a Jarl? What's a Jarl then?
A Jarl is kind of like a chieftain, kind of like a commander type thing.
Yeah. Commander Vatrady or Chief Vatrady. That could make sense. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that.
How is it spelled again? Is it
Jarl?
Jarl.
Jarl.
Yeah. So Jarl literally means a Norse or Danish chief.
Oh yeah, it's got to be then.
So like, yeah, you see, I know the word from a little bit of doing Icelandic sagas and stuff, but also they use the word Jarl in a lot of video games. I think
makes sense.
Did Skyrim call their dudes Jarls?
Oh yeah, it kind of reminds me of that now. Reminds me of the cover of the old Skyrim video game, actually, with the horned character.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
One interesting thing about this is there's this character, whoever the Jarl Vatrady guy is. But there's also another card that was released in Crew that I forgot about until Az mentioned this. That's Righteous Cleansing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I would have anyone who hasn't actually paid attention to this card to look at the card and then really look at the dude doing the attack on the card, because he literally has wings. Like, he's got big white wings coming out of his back. And it was this huge point of discussion at the time. We're like, okay, are we going to get angels? And then we literally get angels, but they're not like him. He's not like the angels in Flesh and Blood, because the angels in Flesh and Blood are all stories made real by Prism. That's the lore of the angels. Prism makes them real with her like power of light and channeling soul and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But this dude is like not one of those angels. He's just like a dude in armor with a big old warhammer, like cleaving a dude and like just chunking him up. So for me, that's always been another one of the big mysteries of Flesh and Blood. Of like, who the hell is this dude on Righteous Cleansing?
Yeah.
And like, why has he got wings? Like, I don't know if I've seen this anywhere else in Flesh and Blood.
But now that you say that as well, if you look a little bit closer at Mangle as well, that looks like, that character's also got wings. Might be a cape, but it still looks feathery.
Yeah. I think we assumed that the Jarl had a cape. Because I think he also has a cape in the One Punch Man card.
Pulverize
earlier. I think he's got a cape in Pulverize. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Was a flavor text appear on Pulverize? I'm not sure. Maybe we'll get to it. But yeah, I just thought that was a good place to start, because obviously this is a character that a lot of people do want to potentially see because of the huge sort of attacks that are normally sort of stapled to the cards that this appears in, or similar looking characters with like horns and huge attacks. And I imagine there probably will be, there could be this character or something similar to it in the Mastery Pack Guardian, because apparently that's going to be shuffle up and playable, and maybe there's some new heroes in that set as well, perhaps. I'm not sure. But I thought that was a good place to start. But Crew has got a load of different things in there that were first times for a lot of things. So there's a couple of other new heroes in crew that were quite interesting. So Shiana was one of them. I'm not sure whether you were probably going to mention that.
Well, I wasn't going to mention Shiana just because we've had more. She's been she's not really that much of a mystery anymore. Yeah. Because she had her own story and she got fleshed out a lot more in later sets. We know who she is. We know she's literally is an agent for Solana. Yeah. She's like a spy almost, diplomat spy kind of position. But there's a couple other ones that I think we know the lore for now, but back at the time we were like, what the hell is going on? There was I can't remember the name of the card, but it's the generic instant that gives an attack +4 defense. Is it called Hold the Line or something like that?
Oh, Reinforce the Line.
Reinforce the Line. And on the art, you have a bunch of samurai-looking dudes fighting a bunch of white monsters. There's just these pale, horrifying monster things. Now we know the people in the art fighting. They're likely from Volcor, and I think we can maybe assume that they're Volcorian soldiers. But I don't know if we know what those white monsters are.
No.
I've heard some people think they might be dregs, but I don't think they're dregs because they have weird limbs and tentacles and weird crap. They could just be the monastery stuff, but I don't know if we've ever had any confirmation on what they actually are, right? And it looks like they're, a sizable force if they're fighting against an actual at least a battalion of soldiers.
It's just those, the white creatures with tentacles coming out of their face almost, or what looks like it. Definitely demonstratory or interdimensional beings for sure. We haven't seen anything else like that in Rathe, I don't think, yet. Yeah. Loads of different things, and as well, Kavdayan, the merchant, was also in this set the first hero that cared about copper tokens, which didn't really see much support outside of the Kasai mechanics.
Yeah,
copper tokens.
Yeah.
And that escalated quickly, going into silver and then gold with other things that we're probably going to speak about in this episode today. But if we've missed anything from Crucible of War that you think is an unsolved mystery, then by all means let us know. But Java Trady, I think, is the one that stands out from that particular set because a lot of people have been like, I want to know what this guy is, or what, the Righteous Cleansing, is it the same person, or is it, that group of knights that, angels or whatever. It just seems quite interesting to maybe delve into that. And we might see that in Mastery Pack Garden, as I mentioned before, so we'll see. The next set after that was the set that I got into the game, not really with, but this is what was happening at the time, and that's Monarch. And Bill's not here today, so I thought I would shout out something that Bill loves to use in his decks, and something that also alludes to another character that we thought we was going to get this year, but we didn't.
We got debated.
We got debated big time. So let's just go on that thread. So part of the Mistveil was released this year. And everyone thought, Illusionist, it's going to be, Mistveil, and what other Illusionist can we potentially see in this set? And then that got people thinking, that got people revisiting the Illusionist cards that we already had. And one of the main characters on there that had been referenced quite often was Amira Suriana, or something like that. Amira Suriana. And that's what a lot of people was like, silver-haired lady. She appeared in the key art that we saw as well as a teaser. Everyone was like, it's got to be Amira.
It was like the biggest debate too, because silver-haired lady with a moon theme, you literally had a moon theme, and in Spears of Surreality, she literally has a moon thing.
That's right.
It's it was quite a big debate. Maybe it was always Enigma, or maybe they made it maybe it was originally Amira and they wanted to make a different character or something. I don't know, but it's interesting how similar they are, because she's clearly an illusionist, right?
Yeah, exactly. there's no on the cards that sort of reference Amira, etc. She's definitely doing more sort of illusionisty things rather than mystical things. So maybe in the future, Amira is more of a character that likes to do like what Bill's favorite thing is to do, is to turn other cards into illusionist cards. You know, he's got a whole deck built around this idea of turning other non-illusionist cards like Snatch into illusionist attacks with Go Again through Luminaris and all that sort of wonderful stuff. He loves it. But yeah, another unsolved mystery, because, you know, again, we all got debated by it, and, you know, she seems like an important character. There's a lot of important characters that are portrayed on multiple cards, or seem to be portrayed on multiple cards, but we just haven't seen them yet, which is good on Flesh and Blood's part, because it creates this quote-unquote enigma or enigmatic sense of, will we ever see those characters? You know, I want to see that silver-haired lady, and we haven't seen her yet. So it's good stuff. So yeah, that was the only thing I sort of picked out from Monarch. Everything else was just, you know, light fighting Shadow, not much else really going on. Just trying to think of other things. There's a lot of demons. Mutated Mass, maybe? Like, what the hell was that?
Mutated Mass is like something from the Monastery. It's like one of their creations.
Maybe, yeah.
But like some of the stuff for me for Monarch is just like still like some kind of touching upon some stuff we've talked about before, like who's that big dude in the Celestial Cataclysm?
True.
What is Soul? We still don't know. I personally think Soul is kind of like an evil entity.
Yeah.
And like, what else? There's like
Ooh.
all of the Monastery stuff. So there's like this. Technically, I guess this happened in Arcane Rising, but like all the stuff with Viscerai, and this will kind of go into more stuff too, because we get more stuff about Viscerai. But like, what the hell's going on with Viscerai? with Viscerai?
Viscerai does appear later on down the line with regards to some stuff, but maybe we can touch on it now. We might as well, just in case we forget, because I'm not sure if it's actually on the list, but it's something I put on my original docket that I had, and that is what is Viscerai doing? You know, because there's a few cards that he is on where he's definitely exploring an interdimensional realm, or some realm between worlds, like a Doctor Strange-esque sort of thing.
I'm confused as to like Viscerai's role in the Monastery at all, because what happened in the story is like Sutcliffe basically experimented on and made Viscerai into the first Arcanite, right? So now he has like ether flowing through him because he has aether affinity, yada yada yada, made him the Arcanite. But in the story, he's like rebelling against the Monastery, and he just like murders a bunch of their dudes, and like he rips out one of their spines and makes it into a sword. It's like really badass.
Reaping Blade,
yeah, and then like he opens the gate to Arathiel, and like a bunch of, you see this big old demon come out, and it's likely just like a random demon. And then like the next thing we see, he is in Arathiel with like some dudes. Like he's like in all the arts, he's got like a couple like acolytes or some dudes.
Yeah.
It felt to me like it felt to me like he's not on good terms with the Monastery in the story, but on the cards it feels like he is. It feels like he's like palling around with them. Like I said, I have no idea what's up with Viscerai at all. Like I don't know why he's there. I don't know if he's now chill with the Monastery. Is he like the leader now? I think he killed. Didn't he cut off? Or I guess technically didn't kill. Sutcliffe's head still talks, I think. But didn't he chop off Sutcliffe's head? And then like there's also like Chain, and there's also like the Chain is also from the set from Monarch, and so like what's Chain's role in all this kind of stuff? Is he the leader of the Monasteries, or he just kind of like their general or something? Like a lot of this stuff is very vague, and we don't really, even like if you read like the Dusk Till Dawn lore, like Vincent, she also feels kind of like a higher ranking member of the Monastery, but like is she just like a leader? Is she like the leader? Like, I don't know. So it's there's a lot of like vague stuff in terms of story surrounding Viscerai, Chain, the monastery, basically all of the shadow stuff is like, what is even going on?
Yeah, and it'll be cool to see, because there's a good arc, there's a good character arc there. Like, Viscerai seems to be evil. You know, he had no choice. He was experimented on, and now he's drawing upon all this dark power, and now he's going on his own adventure into a realm between dimensions to maybe come back as a savior, or like a nice sort of redemption arc, perhaps. There could be there could be a great story there, but we just don't know where he is or what he's doing. Sonata Phantasmia, and then Bequest the Vast Beyond are the cards that are coming to mind with this art on, where it's Viscerai and some dudes, as you mentioned, that are exploring this realm, which is just something like you would see out of a Doctor Strange dimension or something. It's just really odd and very colourful looking, which again sort of gives me the impression that it's not all evil. It's more sort of interdimensional power, sort of weird sort of aether space, like what the astral plane sort of style dimension, rather than just demons and death, like the demons coming out to attack Solana in Dusk Till Dawn. I don't think it's quite that, if that makes sense.
I actually don't think the demons are inherently evil in the sense of like Judeo-Christian demons, right? I think they're just beings from the other dimension, and they're just being like used to attack Solana. In which I think, and if you really, really dive deep into the lore, you find that Chain thinks he's doing the right thing to save humanity. That's the whole point. He's doing this because he believes, and the monastery believes, that Solana and Sol are the bad guys, and that they're the ones who are seeking to bring back the old ones, which are like the harbingers of like the apocalypse, and that Sol is one of them, and all that kind of stuff. Which is why I'm like, I think Sol's actually the bad guy, or one of the bad guys. And I do want to mention one thing that, first of all, take this with a grain of salt. This was something that was mentioned a long time ago, and I have a feeling that the story could have changed since then. But in an early interview, James White mentioned, talking about Viscerai, that Viscerai was meant to be one of the main protagonists of the Flesh and Blood story. Because I was a big Viscerai fan initially. Yeah. I still really like Viscerai. But he mentioned it, and it's something that me and a lot of other like people who are really into the lore picked up on, and it was a thing for a little while. Like, Viscerai is supposed to be like one of the protagonists, and so we all thought it would be kind of like a Kylo Ren Star Wars situation.
Exactly.
And we'll see. I think what Az said earlier I think could happen for sure. Like, he comes back and he's like, you know, in the third Monarch set, maybe like Viscerai is like Gandalf in this situation, you know, Gandalf at Helm's Deep, when they're all getting their teeth kicked in and they're getting siege, and then the Gandalf shows up, you know, the fifth light of the third day or whatever, and he charges down and wipes out everything. And maybe that's gonna be Viscerai with some weird crap,
like weird powers, like new powers and stuff. Yeah, that's, I mean, that kind of stuff like gives me goosebumps, because you love the characters, and you like to think of, you know, Viscerai is depicted as this Runeblade evil character, and all this coming back as a redemption arc to save Solana from destruction, even though he's basically the opposite of Solana. And funnily enough, Viscerai is the background of this episode as well, so I didn't realise we were going to go too much. Nice. So we've done that well. But yeah, I can definitely see that happening for sure.
I think Viscerai is definitely one of like the most story relevant characters that we don't know much about. So I'd like to see more of that. Hopefully with the rumored. Well, technically not a rumor. James literally said there's going to be a third Monarch set. He's literally called it a trilogy. So we know there's going to be a third one at some point. So hopefully we see some fruition, because, yeah, Viscerai's just kind of like off on his own Legend of Zelda adventure.
Yeah, I just love those
in the dark world.
I just love those stories because it depicts that you can still be a good guy despite going through evil or going through pain and suffering. It's the reason why I love Anakin Skywalker's story so much, because he goes through so much hell that he turns to the dark side and then eventually he comes back around again. So I love those types of stories because the sort of anti-hero style stuff is definitely the stuff I like. The darker stories where it's the good and the bad, the dark and the light. So yeah, I can definitely vibe with that if that happens.
That's why I always recruit mages when I play Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
Like 10% of the people are going to understand what that means, but I do. I never kill mages. I always recruit them on my team.
Nice.
I like mages a lot. Anyway.
But yeah, we're going to be speaking about Runeblade stuff again. So this is the next set is not Everfest. Tales of Aria is the next set, which also included Runeblades as well. So it included Briar, which is the Earth or Essence of Earth and Lightning Runeblade, and there was a card in this set which was immediately banned.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we never really know the full story of this as to why like the internal testing decided that this was not a good idea. So they banned it straight out of the gate, and it was Duskblade. So I'll be interested to know if this is even playable now. Could you even play this with the current speed of the game? Is it still as bad as it was back then? Could you still run a deck with this and and still
Probably
be classed as overpowered?
Probably. Well, the thing is like it's just like destroys fatigue decks and control decks that look to just block a whole lot. If you can keep doing the thing and just keep building the counters, and eventually you're just attacking for 10, attacking for 11, attacking for 12 every single turn. And yeah, I mean, like I think it's just one of those things where it's just unhealthy versus like fatigue and control style decks.
Yeah.
And even if it's not good now, which it might be, it will be like busted eventually. And I think that's why they got rid of it, because it limits design space. Yeah. And they didn't realize, I guess, how like insane it is. And the funny thing is reading the initial like thing about it, they put it in as kind of like the counterpart to Dawnblade, right? You have Dawnblade, you have Duskblade, Dawn and Dusk. And they just kind of put it in as like a little counterpart to it. But yeah, they even said that they didn't test it very much, and it's like
it was too easy to do. Yeah. But then saying that, something that is fairly relevant to what is going on at the moment, people are testing with new Rosetta cards and stuff. And one of the decks, one of the meme things that have come out recently is entire decks based around a card called Count Your Blessings. Which is a life gain card, which says you gain 3, 2, or X life, depending on how much Count Your Blessings are in your graveyard. So I think Duskblade would be a perfect answer to that absolute shenanigans that's going on at the moment.
It's a burst card. So for people who are boomers like me who played Magic for a billion years, you might know a card called Kindle from Tempest, which is a 2-drop spell that deals 2 damage plus the number of Kindles in your graveyard. So it does 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5. And then they remade this cycle in Odyssey block with the burst cycle. So there's like I think it's called like Lava Burst or Flame Burst, but the one that a lot of people used was Muscle Burst. So Muscle Burst gives the creature +3/+3 plus the number of Muscle Bursts in the graveyards. And so yeah, this is literally just like the burst cycle. But in Flesh and Blood, and I kind of hate it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's like really not fun. No. But I really don't like fatigue. I don't like fatigue in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, and that's what
as it is. So.
And that's what a lot of people are using it for at the moment, is just fatigue. And as soon as you get to that sort of later game value, those Count Your Blessings are just gaining you 10 life each time, and it's just like, what's the point? So. That's why yeah, so I don't know whether that's going to be a problem or not. So the set is still being figured out, and the grinders are doing it. I only know this because I have a team now, a Flesh and Blood team, Team Turd, Flesh and Blood. And funnily enough, there are some turds in that Discord at the moment that are testing this deck.
Turding it up.
And some people are even saying use this deck wisely because it's very good. But we'll see where that turns out when next calling comes around.
Yeah, we'll see if it has actual legs. But it's literally the concern that I had. That we mentioned this many times on the podcast before. Is the concern I had with like life gain in general, which is why I was like really hesitant about like them making a cleric class and making it like heal based. Yeah, because that just seems absolutely miserable in Flesh and Blood.
Does indeed.
Whereas in a game like Magic, it's not as big of a deal because like it's much more easy to deal damage in Magic. Whereas Flesh and Blood is always this kind of like give and take kind of thing, with some exceptions, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to play like a. Basically, it just makes things in competitive settings. It'll just make things go to time, right? In casual settings, it makes the games like an hour and a half or 2 hours long or whatever.
Yeah.
Casual and competitive settings, you actually have time limits on rounds, except for like untimed rounds and like top top cut. But anyway.
Exactly. It's just thought that sort of goes on the same thread because Duskblade could counter things like that. People that just want to block and then gain life. If you're just doing your Duskblade thing, eventually you're just going to be attacking for 10 anyway. So it might be an answer. But the next set after what was
Aria?
it? Aria. Yeah. Is there anything else? Anything else in Aria you can think of right now? If it was just maybe Lexi Briar and Oldhim.
So the deep cut stuff from it, I think Lexi Briar and Oldhim. This is one of the first sets. And one of the last sets, to be honest, I don't want to throw too much shade, where they really fleshed out the characters with story. So we got a lot of story about Lexi, Brian, Oldhim. Each of them had their own like robust stories. Oldhim is like waking up from being asleep for so long. He's part of this ancient order of guardians. The Olin, I think, is what they're called.
Yeah.
And I think they did a good job. So there's not a ton of mysteries with Aria, except for like what's going to happen next, which we actually haven't seen. So we know that the three heroes, along with York, kind of like pal up and D&D squad out to like go stop the encroaching old ones and Aesir or whatever from coming. But like we haven't seen anything happen of that until later, where they kind of just show up in Solana, and that's right. It.
Yeah.
And we also see them in a little bit of art in Rosetta as well, like in the background. Is that before or after they're fighting the monastery in Dust Till Dawn? I don't know. Like they've been pretty inconsistent with this kind of stuff. So other than that, I'm not sure if there's too many mysteries other than like the Fendel stuff, right? We know there's Fendel is associated with Aria, but
yeah, I mean, we visited.
I can't think of much else. Yeah.
Just thinking of the pulses, we had Pulse of Volthaven, Candlehold, and Eisenloft. I think that's major cities in around that area. Volthaven would be a nice place to know about what's going on, but I imagine there's some stuff in Rosetta. I haven't read much of Rosetta lore yet, but I think that's where maybe Aurora's from, like Volthaven and that sort of area. But those pieces of art, those cities and stuff they looked awesome. I love those art pieces for the locations. So yeah, maybe there's some more stuff on that.
Yeah, the only big mystery I remember like from lore buffs and stuff was like the nature of the flow, which is what they call like the magic that's kind of like coursing through Aria, and like it has to do with like the world tree there and Corsham and some other stuff. So it's like there's a little bit of stuff surrounding that, but nothing too crazy that I can think of really.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on to the next one. The next one is Everfest. So again, this is kind of set in the same area of Aria, where the Everfest Carnivals is going on. And this is a wacky set as well. Just again, one of those supplementary sets which gave us a bit of everyone's class. so supported all heroes. And there were some strange cards in this set, and one of them is standing out to me quite a lot, where I was just like, there was even a psyop on the internet, like, this card is ridiculously good. But it was all a lie. It was all just a sort of a psyop to sort of mislead people, I believe. And this is Knick Knack Bric-a-Brac.
Oh, yeah.
And so yeah, it's just a strange card, like, mechanically. I've never seen it be used. I've never seen any sort of value in it. It's a Majestic that blocks for 2, pitches for red, costs 3. It's just a weird thing. You have to destroy any number of copper, silver, or gold, which at the time there wasn't many outlets for that. And then you search your deck for a card with Amulet, Potion, or Talisman in its name, put it into the arena and shuffle. But then, depending on how much gold, silver, or copper you destroyed, you just can keep going to get items. Like, Everfest had this plethora of items in the set, and they just have never been used, really.
Yeah, more or less. There's some, like, wizards really like some of them, but yeah, more or less, not really.
But yeah, there's loads of, like, you could get the cold foil items, couldn't you? Were they extended arts? I can't remember if they were extended.
No, they were just cold foil.
Yeah, that's it.
I think I actually have a full set of all of them. They were pretty easy to get. You got them pretty frequently in packs.
Yeah. Yeah, just a bit of an unsolved mystery as to why those items exist, because they haven't really been used that much, apart from maybe Deja Vu and Wizard, as you mentioned. But
yeah, I kind of just chalk it up to them experimenting with stuff, to be honest.
Exactly.
A lot of people think there might be some grand plan, but I mean, at the end of the day, we're on set like 11 or 12 now, and they might have just been throwing shit at the wall, man. Like, just like,
yeah,
let's just design some stuff.
And of course, obviously, this set also featured Bravo Star of the Show as well, which obviously came in and absolutely dominated for ages. And there's a couple of other cool cards in here as well, things that cared about, like Nerves of Steel, for instance. When it enters, remove a -1 counter from a chest equipment you control, like, and Battle War and Temper equipment don't trigger, and stuff. Just really interesting mechanics that we haven't really seen be played. Things like Earthlore Bounty, which care about seismic surges, Seismic Stir, which creates seismic surges, loads of different weird things. And we see this in Dynasty as well, which, again, we'll get to, because that's a whole different thing. But lots of these cards that sort of support archetypes that don't necessarily be played, because there's just a better way to play the deck. So that's the thing with this game, right? If there's a better way to play a Guardian deck, you're not going to play the worst version. It just doesn't make sense to do that. At the moment, anyway. There could be a time where could be multiple versions of a deck that are viable, but at the moment it's just you either play this deck or you're just not. There's not worth doing, sort of thing. But yeah. Nothing else really to point out about Everfest, I don't think. I just thought it's just one of those sets that has a little bit of everything. No real unsolved mysteries in this one, I don't think.
I have a couple deep cuts for Everfest. They're pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
So they're not not worth a ton of discussion, but there's a couple. So the first one, well, rather they're both kind of the same, and that is non-human species in the world of Rathe, because before this it was almost just all humans, and I believe even at one point they were like, oh, there's only humans in Rathe. But then in Everfest there's like clearly elves in the background. There are clearly people with like long ears like elves, and then we also got like characters that look like dwarves as well.
Yep. And
then there's like I think is Wild Ride, the one with the Guardian or the Brute kind of riding the thing. But I think there's elves in the background of that card too. Like, and also the Brute's just kind of like chilling in Everfest. So there's some interesting things that are like, are there actually elves? What are their role? Are they only from Aria? The same with like dwarves and that kind of stuff. And even we can talk about this once we get to later sets, but we've seen some other stuff. So that's kind of some of the things that are the big like mysteries lore wise for Everfest for me.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of that sprinkled in, isn't there? There's a lot of art that dictates, okay, the world of Rathe is larger than we potentially know. So yeah, that's a good point as well, actually. That's also another discussion point as well, is Blade Runner. We saw Blade Runner and was like, oh, okay, maybe there's going to be, you know, these steampunky warriors and all this technology maybe coming up in the future, and there definitely was. But next set was Uprising. So this is about the time we started our podcast. There or thereabouts.
Uprising is really funny because it was one of the sets that was heavily like, it was one of the Flesh and Blood sets that everyone content creator wise speculated on. Everyone was like, this is the set where Assassin comes in. This is the set with Necromancer. This is the set with Alchemist. There was a whole thing with an alchemy in the story. There was like this alchemy lab in the story, and everyone's like, alchemy confirmed. Alchemist is going to be in the set. Lena Bell or whatever.
Yeah.
Or maybe not Lena Bell yet, but everyone was like suspected an alchemist, and we didn't get any of that. So we eventually got the Assassin. We were right about the Assassin, but we have to wait a set for that. So yeah, that's what I remember most about Uprising. What do you have on the list for this one?
So there's a couple of mechanics and ideas in this set that were never really fully explored. So obviously we got the Vipox. The Vipox did hint at the set that's coming after this, which we'll speak about in a moment. But one of the cards that I mentioned, not that I've mentioned just yet, but that I've wrote down, is a card called Thor, which I think was one of the ones that may have been spoiled early on for this set.
Yeah.
Because it just gave us a load of information as to what the set could be about. So Thor is a majestic draconic action, so both Phi and Dromai could use it. Costs 2 to play, blocks for 2, attacks for 6. And it says, while this is in your graveyard, at the start of the turn, you may banish it and choose one. Destroy target Frostbite, which was a massive part of the set because Icelander created Frostbite tokens. Destroy target Ice Affliction. So we haven't really seen any Affliction cards since Frostex, which is interesting. And then unfreeze target frozen card. So Ice Afflictions, unfreezing frozen cards were mechanics that we've just never seen since because it was just so tied to ice. And I think the idea of afflictions, like curses on your characters, could be great. And, it's not something that we've seen since. And again, freezing and unfreezing cards could also be a great sort of mechanic to explore, because if you freeze someone's armor or something, they can't actually do anything with it or they can't activate it. So I think that's another cool thing to potentially explore in the future, although I don't know how tied that's going to be to when they can release ice again. So not that I want ice to come back, but I just thought it was cool mechanics, no pun intended.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like they're really biding their time on ice and trying to get it right this next time.
Yeah.
So
exactly. But yeah, that's just more of a unique card and mechanic that we never saw after that, basically. And then the next set after that was again tied into Uprising to a certain degree, and that was Dynasty. So this holds a special place in a lot of people's hearts, yourself included, because this was when the first Assassin was ever revealed.
Yeah, I really like Dynasty.
Yeah.
It does have... Dynasty is interesting, is it's another set that was really heavily story focused, right? They really went deep on the story for this set. And once again, not too much after this. We did get some story in Outsiders, but like after that, I really felt that it petered off quite a bit. Even maybe we got a little bit in like Dusk Till Dawn and stuff. But so like what's cool about this set and what I think is really sweet is there is a little bit of mystery in terms of like lore, but they did wrap up a lot of it. So like we saw like Dromai and Phi's like perspective, sort of, on like the assassination of the Emperor, and it was mostly on Dromai's perspective, I think. And then we really haven't gotten... I think the big mystery here is what happened after the Emperor died, because we don't know if... A lot of people like to just assume that Dromai is now the Empress or whatever, because they heavily implied that Dromai and Phi had royal blood, like they had royal lineage. And they were like basically fighting over it. So we don't really know what happened after that. We do, and then also the other big thing. This is the big thing. The big overarching lore thing is that in every single Flesh and Blood set, and I've already mentioned this at the beginning a little bit, but I mentioned the Old Gods and the Aesir, and every Flesh and Blood set kind of hints at them a little bit here and there, and that's kind of like the underlying story about all of this stuff. Soul being one of them, and then you also have whatever one is behind the monastery, but one of them that we know is sleeping under Mount Volcor, and then the lore of the Emperor's role is to keep the slumbering old one sleeping, and so it doesn't come back and destroy humanity. And that's one of the things that's kind of like going on. And so now that the Emperor is dead and no longer able to quell to make this thing be asleep, what's going to happen? Is it going to wake up? Is it going to blow everything up? I don't know. They really like to cliffhanger a lot of these stories, and that's basically how it ends. The Emperor dies. We don't know who's replacing. We don't know what's going on with Phi's rebellion, and we don't know if the old one underneath the mountain, possibly like some sort of primal dragon or something, awakened. So yeah. For me, those are the big mysteries of this set, and also Uprising to some degree. Yeah,
absolutely. Similar to the Rosetta as well. Like the Queen died in Rosetta, and suddenly there's all these threats can then sort of start to encroach in because the barrier has been broken or whatever. I haven't read too much of it, but that's what the general gist of it is. There's the Rotwood creeping in after she dies. So a lot of big characters just dying off, and then as a result, the forces of evil or whatever you perceive it to be can start encroaching in. So maybe the whole world is just going to, the whole of Rathe is just going to shit, like slowly until it all crumbles in. But yeah, and again, because obviously it was a supplementary set, there was a lot of archetypes with regards to mechanics and stuff that were never really fleshed out or never really discovered as being good. And stuff like shields matter, like Seasoned Savior, Shield Bash, Shield Wall, Reinforced Steel. All of these sort of Shield Matters cards that nobody cared about. Loads of other things in there, which did come to pass eventually, like Crouching Tigers got a bit of support in this set, which then we have seen in MST. And lots of other stuff as well, like axes, like Cleave, Merciless Battle Axe, Jabil Spellbane, cool looking equipments and sort of royal throne room type weapons that nobody plays with. So just a bit of a shame on that front. The next set is one of our favourites, if not our favourites, and that's Outsiders.
Oh yeah, Outsiders is my favourite set. Yeah, for sure.
So the card that I had for this, again, is more of a mechanical thing because we haven't really seen too much of this fleshed out outside of the sealed and limited sort of style thing. And I'm picking this one out because the character just looks awesome. And that's the art for Knives Out, which is...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember you animating this image for your spoiler video with like the crows and the stuff. So...
Yeah. This one is by Henrik Lindner, and I talked to him a little bit actually, and he said it was one of his favorite ones that he did. I think it might actually be his like own design. Like I don't know if this is one that LSS told him to make and told it to design a character like this. I think this is one that he just might have designed himself.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I don't know if this will end up being a character or whatever, but I mean it's a really cool design.
Yeah, it's not like something we've ever seen. Like it's got like that sort of Star Wars-y vibe of the
like a Jawa kind of.
That's it. Yeah, it's got that sort of vibe and sort of the Vivi from Final Fantasy IX vibe, just the eyes in the shadow.
Yeah.
Which is really cool design. Yeah, I just picked this one out for this set because of the mechanics behind it. Knives, sorry, your daggers get +1 this turn. There's a lot of daggers get this or daggers can do that in Outsiders, which I think was a really, really cool flavour sort of perspective, because obviously you had all the Assassin's Bites and all the Nerve Scalpels and Scale Peelers come in during that set for Azuri, which is obviously a hero that you got to spoil. And yeah, I don't know how much of Unsolved Mysteries there were in that particular set. But yeah, I just love the theme and flavour of daggers, but it never really did anything outside of that in constructed, etc. I don't think. Maybe Hurl is a good card that's sometimes used in decks, but
that's pretty good. Yeah.
But things like stab wound and that sort of stuff never really saw much play.
Yeah.
So
there's lore wise, there's a bit. So there's the whole plot of Outsiders is a little not okay. So it doesn't have like this overarching plot. There's a little bit that talks about Uzuri's history and her past. Mm-hmm. Her parents are from Metrix and Mysteria, and she has ties to like this underground black market kind, not black market, like the syndicate. She has the ties to like this underground syndicate that her parents were part of, and then it's also heavily implied that, well, it's not implied. This I can prove this that Katsu was also part of the same syndicate. So Katsu has some ties to this organization that Uzuri's parents are from, and she wanted to get out of that, which is why she went and moved to the pits, and so that's why she did that. She ended up joining the Spider Assassins and kind of grew the ranks up. Her own story is like her first mission as a Spider Assassin. But by the time we see her in the actual, like, her adult version or whatever, she's like a super high ranking member. I don't know if she's called the boss. She might be like the highest ranking member of the Spider Clan, at least in the pits. I don't know if she's the highest ranking of all, because I know the Spider goes everywhere in the world of Rathe. But I know she's one of the highest ranking. And one of the big mysteries of the lore is that of the assassination of the Emperor by Arachne. Mm-hmm. Arachne was essentially tricked to kill the Emperor. They were given like a false document with Uzuri's like signature to kill the Emperor, and she, in the lore, she's like, I did not have you do this. And so big mystery is like, who did it? Like, who wanted the Emperor dead? We don't know. We actually have no idea who like was behind the assassination of the Emperor. Mm-hmm. Arachne was, like I said, Arachne was tricked. And then there's the whole thing with the plague. There's the plague that's going on in the pits, and it's very heavily implied that it is being perpetuated by one of the old gods, or the Aesir or whatever. Well, like I said, old gods, Aesir, it's kind of muddy which one is which, if it's the same or whatever. But it's heavily implied that there is the old god of, like, I can't remember what it's called. It says it in the lore a little bit. Whatever is like in under the pits. Like, I
think it just might be chaos, like the something of chaos, maybe something like that.
I had a. If you asked me like a year ago, I would have known. I don't remember anymore. But yeah. So there is definitely an old god, and then there's also they bring up in the lore Apocalypta, which is a doomsday cult, and the point of the cult is that they try to incite calamity across Rathe in order to prepare people for the actual apocalypse, which is the awakening and the return of the old ones.
Yeah.
Or the Aesir. And so it's also heavily implied that Chain is part of this cult, because Chain's goal is to kind of do the same. He wants to incite calamity in order to prepare people, and they, that's why a lot of the things are happening. It's like they're like the people pulling the strings. Is Apocalypta the people who assigned got Arachne to kill the Emperor? Are they doing all this kind of stuff? Did they try to get the monastery to attack Solana, or did they incite all the stuff that's going on in Aria? They're kind of like the puppet masters, and so a lot of that comes out a little bit in the Outsiders lore. just a smidge.
Yeah. That's a good point. We haven't really seen too much of the L'Apocalypta, I think they're called, or something like that. But it is alluded that they're behind some of the tragedies in the world of Rathe. But as you say, because they're preparing people for the old ones, etc. So, but yeah. So moving on to the last couple of sets here before we close it off for today. Dusk Till Dawn was the next one. So this had a lot of story implications. But again, I just want to go on a mechanical basis here with a card that had the word party in it. So
yeah, we still don't know.
PvE.
Still have no idea what the hell that is.
Yeah, PvE is an unsolved mystery, which was
I don't even know, man.
Which was teased back in Dusk Till Dawn, which is almost a year old, I think.
They mentioned it before that. They mentioned it way before that. It was like, I think the first PvE was like at Arcane Rising preview, like events in New Zealand where they had like the fight the car thing.
Yeah,
but that was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't have much faith in it much these days. We'll see.
No.
But based on what everything that developers have said, like it's like, I wouldn't hold your breath anytime soon. So
yeah, so just an unsolved mystery because we never know what's going to happen with Dusk Till Dawn. With PvE, we never know what's going to happen with it. So an unsolved mystery and a card that just doesn't see play as a result of just not having any PvE.
yeah. And then like obviously story wise. There's just kind of like a big cliffhanger at the end as well. Like we don't know what happened at the end of the story. By the way, Leviah did this ritual. Oh no, I think it was like Leviah. Yeah, they did this ritual and Vincent and whatever by like bringing back the original creators of the monastery. And there was like I think there was like 13 of them, which is why
that's right.
Plasma Fett has like 13 health. And they like sacrificed themselves to bring Blasmafet into the actual world, and it basically consumed Leviah. Now Leviah is Blasmafet. They've kind of like, melded together, and then the last thing we saw was like Blasmafet just wrecking Solana, and then the tear goes down Prism's face, and then that's all we know. There's a couple other things. There's like Morlock Hill, right? Mm-hmm. There's some other like little things here and there. Like we know. What's her face got pulled into the other dimension, into Irathiel, likely by a necromancer. Like, and then like Dorinthia went Super Saiyan and fought off the necromancer. She literally, her hair glowed and she like fought him off.
That was a good story.
If you haven't read, people out there, if you haven't read the Flesh and Blood lore, it gets a little wild. And then there's the whole thing of like the council, like in like the Solanian council have like these kind of weird sinister undertones as they're like controlling like Shiana's mind and then Shiana kind of like does this weird, or Prism and Shiana do this weird meld thing as well, and like we don't know what the hell that happens from that. A lot of people were speculating that we'd get a new Shiana. It should be like light Shiana, but I don't know. Like, so there's a lot of like loose ends and mysteries in terms of the lore that are just really not. We haven't seen the conclusions to. So, there's all that.
But there will be a part 3 to that saga, I guess. So we'll see how it sort of culminates and how it's written. Because obviously we know we've had some troubles with the lore side of things and the writing side of things. So it'll be interesting to see how that all picks up.
If you're a lore fan, it's kind of jarring a little bit. Because like you have these main heroes. And they finally all made it to Solana to match up. So you have like your Prism, even like Bravo's there, and Oldham's there, and Lexi, and I guess York is technically there too, doing Bard stuff. Briar, you have all these heroes. Dorinthia, Bolton. They're all there. They're all there fighting the monastery, which is like Chain, Leviah, and like Vincent. For the most part, we don't know about the other ones. If there's anyone's. And then, like, all the heroes start getting their, like, shit kicked. They all lose. And literally all of those heroes are in Solana losing, and like that's the last we've heard. And then after this, I'll talk about this. We just jump to like bright lights, and then we jump to like heavy hitters, and then Aria. I mean, or then like
what was that?
Yeah, it's like we have this huge climax. We don't know what's going on, and they're like, okay, let's go talk about this arena that's randomly going, and they're just trying to get money or whatever. Like, yeah, it's kind of jarring lore wise, you know.
Yeah, and we've said this before. Like, I like what Magic do with their stories. I'm not sure whether they still do it or not, where they release the episodic.
They do. I think they do. Yeah.
So they still do that. So if you're interested in that, they give you this week it's this is happening. This week it's that. This week, and it sort of ties it all in. It gives you your favorite characters and what they're doing and how they're interacting and what the planeswalkers are doing, etc. So if they had that sort of team available to them where they could sort of drip feed and sort of work the story in, that would be a great to see and keep up with as like an episodic nature. But the way this game feels sometimes, because of the fact it is hero driven and the living legend system sort of means that if for some reason a hero reaches living legend, does that mean they're not really in the story anymore because you can't really print cards for them, if that makes sense? So
I think they just make a new version, like they did with Prism, right? So Prism hit Living Legend, and they just made a new Prism.
Yeah.
So they can just do that. They can basically just do whatever they want, I think. So
it's hard to write. It's like hard to write characters. Yeah. Hard to write characters if you need to change like what they are or what they represent. Like Chain, for instance. Does that mean that Chain was just an expendable, shadowy goth bloke? Like, you know.
Well, if you think about it like Magic, though, but Magic. They make different planeswalkers like all the time. So there's like there's like 8, like there's like a billion versions of Jace, for example, right? So like I think Flesh and Blood could do that too. They could just make different versions of their characters the same way Magic does.
Yeah. But yeah, jump into Bright Lights is jarring because obviously you got all this fantasy, this high fantasy, light versus dark.
Yes.
And then suddenly your Terminator tanks, you're injecting your fuel injectors and using med kits to gain life. There was we spoke to Brian before, and you know I think that he mentioned that Bright Lights was one of those sort of experiments that they've done, and they learnt a lot from. So yeah, it's a mystery, it's an enigma in itself, this set, because nothing had ever really come before it that did this. So yeah, but I don't really know what was happening in this particular set, to be honest. I didn't really pay much attention to it. I don't know what time period this is in. Is this in the same time period, or is the Teklo Vossen stuff happening in the future, in the past? What's going on with that? Because obviously he's ascended to Iron Man or Ultron status. So he's a shadow mech mechanologist hero. So what's the implications of that? It's... yeah, it's an enigma in itself, this particular set. Bright Lights. Very strange. Yeah,
I mean, Bright Lights was probably the biggest tonal shift we ever had in Flesh and Blood. Mm-hmm. It's kind of wild. Even Metrics as like a cyberpunk or a steampunk thing kind of made a little bit of sense. It still had that fantasy kind of flair, and we've seen settings like that before that had like the steampunk thing, but then just going into this crazy cybernetic Ghost in the Shell, like Terminator tank, stuff is just kind of wild.
People riding bikes and all that sort of thing,
and neon lights, and it's bizarre. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was bizarre. It's very, very interesting shift. That's for sure. I mean, I enjoyed some parts of it. Some of it was pretty cool looking, but in the sort of overarching story and coming from Bright Lights, almost like where demons and sort of stuff were infiltrating to fight in a fantasy realm, was just like quite strange. But we'll see what happens with it. But yeah, not much to really sort of delve into there. The whole set was a mystery, really.
Yeah.
And then jumping from straight back into fantasy to a certain degree, but almost having this historical feel with heavy hitters, which was just a set about a gladiatorial arena where people were fighting for profit.
Also, yeah.
So yeah, the things I sort of mentioned on this set as we sort of close off these last couple of sets now is just the inherent lack of playability for the new characters like Betsy and Olympia, for instance. Clearly, they're really cool designs, but they just were not relevant whatsoever with what was going on at the sort of wider constructed situation. So just an unsolved mystery as to where those characters go and what happens when you design a set around a certain mechanic like wagering, but then that is the only set that they can get support from because of it. We've had this discussion before where if you're having I think it was parasitic, the word we used before, where you're only designing within the confines of a draft or limited set, it gives you a hero that then can just not really synergize with any other cards from the history of Flesh and Blood, which in a eternal format, in constructed sense of the matter, it just means that you're not going to have a good deck, really, unless it's incredibly relevant or incredibly counteractive to what the meta turns out to be at the time. Like, does wagering really help in this meta? Or does overpower your wager cards really matter in this particular meta, whatever the meta may be? Probably not most of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agreed. And then lore-wise for it, there's not much. There's really not much.
No.
I mean, I guess Rhinar and KO are there fighting. Sure, we don't exactly know why. We knew KO was caught and they chopped off his freaking arm. But Rhinar's there for fun, I guess.
Was that ever explained? Why Rhinar was there?
I don't think so. I don't think it was explicitly stated.
No.
Why Rhinar's there? Was he captured? It doesn't feel like Rhinar was captured. And then we have Kasai, who's there to try to raise an army so she can get revenge on the people who wronged her family and stuff.
Which is fine. That's that's a good story thread. You're doing you're in an arena raising funds, killing people, and not doing things you would necessarily do out of desperation and revenge. That's a cool arc, I guess. But
yeah, so there's that, which is going on the same time that people are dying in Solana or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's like I said, tanks and mechs and stuff, and then that dude becoming a robot. Yeah, and then the other heroes in the set are just dudes and ladies chilling in the arena, right? It's just
that's it.
Betsy and Olympia and stuff. They're just they're just kind of
just
fighting in the arena.
Yeah. Just walking into the arena holding a leaf, this is me. I'm Olympia. I wage.
Yeah, so story wise, lore wise, that set doesn't really have much to do with the overarching narrative. I don't know. It might to some degree. Maybe Kasai will show up with a big army that she got with the gold that she earned or something. But I don't think her intent is to help Solana. She just wants to, do her own thing. And then we don't know what Rhinar's. Yeah, like I said, we don't know what Rhinar's doing or whatever. So maybe that's the big mystery. What the hell is Rhinar doing in the arena?
Yeah. I mean, there needs to be in each set. There needs to be something that's almost falling apart, which affects one of the characters that's in the set. For instance, what we just said there about Kasai, for instance. There needs to be some form of reason why they're in the place that they are. Otherwise, it's just what are you doing? For instance, the Tales of Aria. Not Tales of Aria. What was it? What was the thing that was going wrong?
Which set?
Rosetta, sorry, Rosetta with the
okay, yeah.
The Emperor dying, the Queen dying. These things happening, which is then sort of threatening the Aces waking up. There's this overarching threat of encroaching thing.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Yeah, heavy hitters. Yeah, doesn't have.
As
far as I can tell, doesn't have any tie to the overarching story at all. I think it's like the first main draftable set that doesn't, right? Because I can think of like maybe some other ones that don't technically, but they're not really story heavy, like Everfest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this one's like a main draftable set. Maybe it feels like a supplemental set in terms of story and lore, basically.
Yeah, and it's clear that obviously they didn't have the team that they had before for this, because this was the sort of time when they didn't have the people there for whatever reason. But yeah, so that was heavy hitters. And the last set that came out before that was MST, or part of the Mistveil, and this did have story. This did have reasoning.
Yeah.
And obviously there was like disturbances in the mist, or the beyond the Mistveil or something, which was the reason why the characters were doing what they were doing. So I haven't read it all, but it's just one of those things that a story needs to have, and I think sets need to have to sort of bring people in. But I don't think there's any unsolved mysteries from MST that I can think of immediately, apart from maybe Enigma's New Moon, that whole sort of arc, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I do know it heavily implied, or maybe it directly implied, that New is not human. She's kind of like some entity. I don't even know what to describe. I was going to say demon, but she definitely, the way the demons are presented in Flesh and Blood, they're from Arathiel. I don't think she's from Arathiel, but she's like some weird succubus thing. Like, I don't know. Like, she's like a
demon lady.
She's a demon lady, yeah.
Yeah.
Not human for sure. So
yeah,
there's that.
But yeah, and then rounding it off with the latest set, Rosetta, and a call to the grave, or call to the car, a call to the whole episode was based on call to the grave, as well as cut through the facade, which sort of depicts like necromancers and pirates, and a whole class that we've been waiting for in the lore book, which hasn't been explored yet. So it's going to be interesting to see where that leads.
I didn't mention this in Outsiders. I wanted to mention this in Outsiders. Alchemist. I was gonna say Alchemist. Alchemist was a big thing that everyone was expecting. We never got Alchemist. Everyone was like, "Oh, Lena Bell, she's in the lore. She's gonna be a character Alchemist." Nothing. Never. We never got that. That's probably one of the biggest unsolved mysteries for that. Just we don't know what's going on with the Alchemist class. If they're gonna do it, they've hinted at it multiple times, but they just haven't delivered. Definitely wanted to mention the Alchemist.
Seems like
in the lore book. Too.
Yeah, seems like quite a fun class, like establishing items on board that then you could then use for myriads of different things, or things like Life of the Party, where if you destroy a crazy brew, you get extra things. There's some cool mechanics hidden in that sort of stuff. So yeah, it would be interesting. Not sure whether it would be like a playable deck or not, but well, I don't really care about that. It'd be cool to have an Alchemist regardless, but I think it could be a nice little thing to play around with. But yeah, good shout. I've completely forgot about that. That was something that's been hinted at multiple times, especially when we saw Lena Bell trying to get the Christmas presents out for with Arachne and Azalea. When Lena Bell was like, "Oh, Azalea, strap this to one of your arrows," and it blew up the thing, which was quite funny.
She gives her a potion. She literally gives her a potion. She's like, "I made this potion for you."
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all the sets up until this point. We probably missed a few things, so leave a comment in the section below as to what
for sure,
what mysteries you might want to see solved. But yeah, it's been a fun one, just going through a bit of the history of each set and throwing some speculations out there.
Yeah, is the hump underneath Arachne's cloak just Bravo? Is it Starvo under there?
Oh, I remember that. I remember that theory as well. It's Starvo under there because of the big pauldron.
It's the dumbest like actual theory. It's literally just like a meme. Because
yeah,
bro, Starvo's like in Aria. He's literally fighting. Well, he's not in Aria anymore. He's in
Solana.
He's in Solana fighting like demons. Like he's not assassinating the Emperor, dude.
That's funny.
And we know that specifically too in the lore, like the timeline. You can't even be like, oh, it's a different time, because we literally know that Shiana goes to Volcor and then reports back to Solana, like during the invasion, that the Emperor was killed. Mm-hmm. So we know it happened around the same time. So. Yeah. Anyway,
so there's no excuse to speculate on that one. It's not Bravo.
I think they're just deformed, right? I think we see part of it, right? We think we see part of the weird hump.
Yeah.
In one of the Arachne cards, right? Like
solitary confinement. I think we see it. Yeah,
it's like tattered or whatever. So you see this weird like lump thing.
Growth.
I don't know how it gets all. I don't think how it gets all spiky for the adult Arachne art. Maybe they have like armor or something. Maybe it's like a pad or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's just an aesthetic. They just look cool. You know, bit edgy, bit more edgy.
Or maybe a big spike grew out of their weird hump. I don't know.
Yeah, it's the adult version, isn't it? So maybe it sort of just protrudes bone marrow or something. You know.
But we do know in the lore that Uzur is the one that got Arachne out of Southmaw Asylum, and Uzur is the one that trained Arachne to be an assassin. So
yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all we've got time for today. Again, if you think we've missed anything, probably have, about your favourite sort of speculations on the world of Flesh and Blood and all the sets that we've seen so far, then by all means leave a comment in the section below, and we can try and address it next week, depending on what we've got to speak about next week. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, unless you've got an Arsenal step for today.
Nothing new that I haven't talked about. Still playing Sea of Stars. It's absolutely brilliant. It has multiple awesome plot. God, it's so good. It has multiple like plot twists, and it has like a debate plot twist, and it's that you call. It's obvious, like you know that's coming. You're like, yeah, this is a thing. And then the characters in the game point out how it's obvious. Like they're like, yeah, we knew. And the other character's like, what? How did you know? And they're like, yeah, we're just waiting for you to tell us. Like it's. And then it has an actual like one that I didn't see coming at all, like multiples. It's so good. Play Sea of Stars. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm almost at the end game ish portion. It's the kind of game where you can beat it, but to get the true ending, and you should definitely get the true ending, you have to go back and then get all the collectibles and do all the things, get all the conches, and there's like special extra bosses and different stories you can do for every single party member to do it. And then after you finally do, the payoff is really good. It's really, really good. It's actually like really worth it. Changes completely. It's not just like a different cutscene or whatever. Literally changes the final boss, who the final boss is, changes everything. It's really good. So that's my thing, is just Sea of Stars.
Yeah. Good. Nice. Need a new game to play because I'm going to be traveling soon, so I might have to get that one. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like some games to buy and download on my phone for my 20-hour flight to Singapore. So I already have like Slay the Spire on here. I just want some games that are like offline, so I don't have to like pay for the flight internet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I made like a favorites list on the Google Play Store of some potential games, and I'll probably pick a couple of them to buy beforehand. So
yeah,
we'll see. The one is called like Dawncaster, which is a deck building RPG, like $5. Most of them are like $5.
Yeah, phone games are pretty good these days if you can find a decent one. Just like playing on a little mini console really most of the time. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I haven't got much going on apart from what I've mentioned last week and maybe at the start of this week, potentially. Warhammer stuff, but I'm actually playing tomorrow again, so I would have.
Nice.
This will be my second game, but there's loads of stuff that I missed in the first game. We just got so much stuff wrong, but yeah, I'm glad I started when 4th edition had just come out, because I would have been annoyed if I just got into it and then suddenly they change everything. So I think it's a good time to get into it. After that release, I think it was 3 months ago it released now, 4th edition, but. My faction's quite lucky as well, because it has all the faction pack, so you get all of your war scrolls, so you know what all of your heroes do in card form, so I can just get them out and look at them as to what all their stats are. So just looking forward to playing more of it. We got quite a good play group. We got 4 players, so me and my 2 mates who are just like, you know, my long time friends that live in the area. We all play different armies, so if I do content, it just means that there will be varied matchups every time, which is going to be good.
Nice.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Going to go tomorrow and see if I can film something, at least try and gauge what I can do, and go from there, really. But yeah.
I've been watching an absurd amount of content on Warhammer, mostly Age of Sigmar.
Yes.
There's a lot more 40k stuff out there. In terms of like the actual hobby, other than like video games and stuff, because I thought Space Marine 2 was really good.
Yeah.
In like a week or so, I should have my little starter kit. I think it's called like the Command Edition for Warhammer 9th Edition, which is the older one, all painted up and ready. And I'm gonna invite my brother over to play with me.
Nice.
This is the one with the Necrons and the Space Marines. But I did buy a 10th edition rulebook. It was very cheap actually, because a lot of people are selling like the Leviathan core rulebook for pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought that. So we're gonna play some Warhammer 40k 10th edition, and then I would like to get my Age of Sigmar stuff all done. Currently the only product I own for that is the Skaven Tide box set, which is Skaven and Stormcast.
Yeah.
But I did buy some previous edition battle tomes, so I can get a better feel of some of the other armies that I might be interested in, there's Stormcast, but I also got like the, what are they called, Daughters of Cain.
Oh yeah.
Which are kind of like the Dark Elves, and they're like
good.
big boss unit is like this giant Medusa lady with these big old dragon wings, and she's really cool looking. So we'll see where I go with that. I also have my 40k Sisters of Battle that I need to, assemble and paint at some point. But I think the next ones I'm doing, like the ones I'm actually going to do myself, are going to be like this my Skaven Tide box set. Get all them painted up.
Yeah.
Hopefully ready to go.
Yeah.
So
I've started doing like base layers of all the Saurus warriors. So I think that's why when I first got into lizard men, I was like, or lizard folk or seraphon, what they're called now, is just like what's the easiest thing to paint? The lizard men are just basically they're all flesh basically, so you can't really go wrong as long as you're doing the shadings and stuff correctly. So that was my thought process, but we'll see how wrong or right I am about that, because I'm just starting to do the base layers of one of the main units. But yeah, it's good stuff. Don't want to speak about it too much, because otherwise this will just turn into my Arsenal step each week, because it's probably going to be the tabletop game that I play every week without fail, because I've got the play group to do it. So we'll see where it goes with that, but it's good stuff all in all.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it really for this week, Living Legends podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the sort of trip back in time of unsolved mysteries of the booster sets that we've had so far, and again, let us know if we've missed anything or what you might want to see explored or discovered, whether that's lore, mechanics, or pieces of art or characters. Let us know in the comments below. But I've been your host for today. My name's Az from Go Again Gaming /@TeamTurdFab or Go Again Gaming AZ. the goal for next year, or maybe the end of this year, is to get a Team Turd Flesh and Blood member on stream. And it's looking likely for the ProQuest I'm going to be streaming up north in Crewe. We do have one Team Turd member present, so going to tick that box off nicely. Achievement unlocked, Team Turd on stream. It is my own stream, so there we go. I can sort of fix that achievement, but there we go. But yeah, that's me, and I'll throw it over to you as well, Kel. Where can people find you and stuff?
Yep, I'm Kel, also known as Red Zone Rogue. You can find me everywhere at Red Zone Rogue. If you want to hear me talk about, mostly these days, my big focuses are Shadowverse and Grand Archive, with some other games thrown in here or there. Like Cardfight Vanguard has been a lot of my community has really been supportive of Cardfight Vanguard content. Game's really good. And then I do like my own things that I enjoy, like Wheatcross, kind of dabbling in a little bit of Ice Shorts. And going to be checking out the new Hololive card game that apparently has been crazy popular in Japan and Southeast Asia so far.
Nice.
Because I was kind of skip it and wait for the English version, and then I was like, maybe I'll get a starter deck to do a review, and it's literally sold out everywhere that I would check.
Oh.
I might pick one up while I'm in Singapore. I think a good buddy of mine, Daniel Yanto, who's the world champion for Shadowverse Evolve, he's going to be at the Grand Archive event, and I think he told me he's going to be able to get me like a starter deck that I can do an opening of or something. But yeah, the game's like popping off, and it makes sense because it's Hololive, and Hololive's insanely popular. So we'll see how that goes. I got to play a demo of it at Anime Expo, and it was interesting. So there's that. So if you want to follow me for that kind of stuff, go for it. If you want to follow me for like the more Western style TCG stuff, it's going to be an occasional thing. We'll see. We'll see where it lands. I do plan on talking about Flesh and Blood again occasionally, and then there's also Warlord Saga of the Storm, which is great. Yeah. Oh, and I have a fun video planned for Halloween this year. I always do a Halloween video, talk about dead card games because it's dead, spooky, and I have a fun one this year. So
nice.
Stay tuned for that. If you like Warhammer, you should stay tuned for it. You'll be into it.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's that.
Awesome. Well, that's pretty much it for Living Legends podcast this week. Thanks for joining us. And next week we'll be back to do it all over again for maybe a slow news week again. We will see. Flesh and Blood's getting to that stage now where there's quite a lot of news coming out and stuff, and sets in between, and armory decks and mastery packs, and let's hope that continues as time goes on. More stuff to speak about is always good, and it's always good to visit. Whether or not we're engaging with that particular product is still good to speak about because of our sort of combined experience playing and sort of enjoying this game for the last 3 years or so. If longer for you, I expect.
5 years.
5 years, yeah, bang on the anniversary.
Yep.
So a lot of experiences as well coming from my end within the next month or so. So that's a couple of those podcast episodes we'll be preparing for and then returning from, and maybe even doing while in the middle of that. Because I think every time I've been away, I've been able to do a podcast. Like I did one in Barcelona before Bill arrived. And then Osaka, I can obviously do that as well. I just have to get up early or whatever the time difference is to do it. So I don't see why not. I'm not sure whether I told you this as well, and I'll tell the audience as well. I might as well add this on. But I have now upgraded from a capsule hotel to an actual hotel room. So I'm not going to be staying
You did, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether I mentioned that on the podcast or not, but I might do one night in a capsule hotel just for the crack, just for the sort of, the vlog, staying in a capsule hotel tonight sort of situation, after getting drunk, maybe. It'll be a funny story on the GoPro.
Yeah.
We'll see. There's going to be shenanigans for that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So expect to see it all over again next week. Hopefully Bill's returned from the fire that is Magic the Gathering this week. That's pretty much it. So we'll see you soon. Cheers, folks. Goodbye.
Yeah, bye.
There we go. Oh,
all right.
Got nothing to speak about this week. 2 hours later.
Oh god, yeah, really.